We all have what Eckhart Tolle calls a pain body. It's that part of ourself that is consumed with our stories and our past and all of the woundedness that is part of our experience. And yet when we're attached to it, when we cling to it, when we demand that other people recognize it, it gets hungry. And mine became part of my addiction to alcohol. I'm so excited to be celebrating 8 years of sobriety. Part of that recognition within myself is that that substance, that addiction, that part of me that was trying to calm and soothe my pain body was reaching for something that would never heal that part that needed healing. When I put down the drink, when I realized that not only was I an alcoholic, but I was a codependent, I was a people pleaser, and I wasn't living my authentic self. And I started a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life. I started with 12-step and then spirituality in a way that healed me and released my pain body. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast and community, a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life. My name is Reverend Rachel Harrison. I started Recover Your Soul after having profound changes in my life from my recovery of alcoholism, codependency, people-pleasing, and control addiction. I was guided to share the tools and principles of spirituality and the Recover Your Soul process to help others transform their lives as mine was transformed. For us to overcome external circumstances, we need to turn the attention to ourselves, focusing on our inner change and healing. Positive results in our lives will follow. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast. I'm Rev Rachel. Today is a really fun day for me. It's actually a couple days prior to my 8-year sober anniversary. I got sober February 10th, 2018. And this 8 years has been such a phenomenal whirlwind of change and awareness and awakening and growth and humility and honesty and the chance to dig deeper into my soul journey and to recognize gifts and to be willing to let go of a huge swath of old limiting beliefs that were holding me back and keeping me from being my best self, and a substance, alcohol, that I used to keep myself numb and asleep. Every year on this time of year, it's just, there's always the reflection that happens when we have birthdays or anniversaries. And, I've been saying I'm almost 8 years sober for a couple months, so I've been kind of getting myself to my birthday, but here I am actually about to celebrate 8 years. And if I reflect on where I was 8 years ago, exactly 8 years ago, my mom and I were in our last couple days in Thailand, and I had had such a profound transformation of change of heart on that trip to Thailand. And many of you who have been listening for a long time know my story, and I'm honored and grateful that you've gone back. And, some of you have gone all the way back to the beginning. And when I started talking about this in 2020, and have allowed yourselves to be on my path, because my path isn't just my path is our path. Whether you're a recovering alcoholic or just a recovering codependent like I am as well, or just somebody who is looking that there must be more, that this part of us that's doing for everyone else, that is losing ourselves in everybody else's situations. And we numb ourselves, we protect ourselves, we shut down in many, many, many ways. For me, it was alcohol. For other people, it could be shopping or scrolling or eating or sex or drugs and alcohol, like was mine. There are just so many ways that we shut down. And so 8 years ago, my mom and I, on our last couple days together in Thailand, and I've been away from my family for almost 3 weeks. And my family was complicated and difficult and toxic and dysfunctional. And we were in the throes of a dysfunctional alcoholic home together. And things were really, really hard with my oldest son, who was just, oh my gosh, if he's 29 now and it's been 8 years, right? So he was just 20 or 21 years old. and my younger son, who was in college at the time. And I just look at how complicated our life was and how difficult it was with my husband. And I've been gone for 3 weeks, and I found myself just enough in those 3 weeks. And I know that many of you can relate to this. It's like you go away for a girls' weekend, or you have some time alone somehow, or you go and do something that's really powerful for you, and you step outside of this chaos of life, this complex life that we have, painful, the suffering, the wishing it was different. And you step out just long enough that you have a glimpse and a memory, just a moment where you remember who you are inside, who your being is without all of this stuff on the outside. And that's what it felt like to me, is that I had gone for 3 weeks with my mom, who is a Buddhist, and we went to Thailand and we went to temples, and she's very cultural. So everything that we do together has a big cultural lean to it. And it was in Myanmar, at a big, beautiful golden pagoda called the Shwedagon Pagoda. It was this huge pagoda up on a hill. And you walk up the hill, and there's no tourists there. This is not in Bangkok, in Thailand. All of the Buddhas are surrounded by not only locals, but a ton of tourists. But this was not surrounded by tourists. This was surrounded by local people in their outfits that they wear. They all wear long skirts. The men wear long jeans, which are like long sarongs, and the women wear sarongs. And the women have this white paste on their cheeks. And you realize you're somewhere else. And it wasn't for show. This was for their heart. It was for who they were. And at night, this beautiful golden pagoda is lit up, and surrounding the pagoda, as you're walking along this walkway where you can circumambulate for spiritual contemplation, are all these little nooks, all these little temples, all these little places to go. And there's people chanting. And on the outside of that walkway are thousands upon thousands of candles that people are lighting. And behind that are these little miniature pagodas with Buddhas inside of there meditating. And they've got them all lit up with these LED lights with halos over their heads. And it's just stunning. It's just peaceful and beautiful. And it's a whole other country where there's not everything that we have here in America. It's very simple. And there was such a profound sense of being outside of my life, where I could come back to a grounded, centered place. And I could see from a distance, I could step back just enough and recognize my soul and my higher self speaking to me, saying, Rachel, there's another way. This, how you feel right now, this, how you are in your body right now, this is actually who you are and what you want more of. And because I had space, I could expand that. I could grow that a little bit more. So that as the time was getting closer to get back to Colorado, where I had made a decision that I was going to stop drinking when I got home, enough of my higher self could come online that it overrode the pain body, the chaotic state that I was in, the addict that was back there trying to protect me and promise me that I could stay asleep and shut down, which is what addiction does. And so that when I landed, and I tell this story in my upcoming memoir, Recover Your Soul, which, by the way, so excited. There is a release date. It's going to be April 13th of this year, 2026. So super excited for the book to come out. You would think that there would be other more prominent moments that make it where you make a decision about saving yourself, and walking around that particular beautiful temple and the 3 weeks with my mom was this coming back to myself. But interestingly enough, it was when I landed and my husband, Rich, picked my mom and I up from the airport. And I had done what alcoholics do, which is instead of thinking, oh, you've been titrating yourself off of alcohol for 3 weeks, you should probably stay on that. Oh, no. I drank as much free wine that they would give me on the airplane, knowing that was the last wine of my life, which it was. And I drank a lot of it until they would quit serving me on the airplane. So I had been flying for 30 some hours. I'm still intoxicated, probably. I'm tired. It's been a big trip. And I get in the car, and Rich starts just pouring out life, all of the things that had happened while I was gone, because we had made an agreement that we would have minimal contact while I was gone so that I could actually be gone. So he was just pouring out all the things and all the things between him and Alex and all the places that Alex hadn't done the right thing and all the parts of their relationship, and everything just fell out of the pain body, broken home suitcase and just piled itself into the vehicle. But I had spent 3 weeks witnessing my mind. I had spent 3 weeks engaging in my heart. I had spent 3 weeks separating from my thoughts just enough that in the vehicle driving home from the airport, the feeling that I felt, the stress that I felt, the intensity that I felt, the discomfort that I felt, instead of falling back into that in my old ways where I just wanted to numb and shut down and not look at it and pretend like nothing was happening or try to fix it or control it or jump in or have an opinion, I watched all of that want to come, but I made a different choice. I just was present with it. I just experienced that experience and thought, this doesn't feel good to me. And I realized in that moment that if I didn't get sober, they always cry. Recover Your Soul is so much more than just this podcast. It is a growing and thriving community, and I want you to be part of it. I want to invite you personally to join us for the first Monday of every month on Zoom from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time for our open support group, or take a deeper dive into the Recover Your Soul process with others on the same path in the Recover Your Soul Circles group coaching with me. And if you want to commit to a weekend that will transform your life, join me in Colorado for a retreat. The events are open on the Recover Your Soul website to learn more and register. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. That if I didn't get sober, I was going to lose myself. And I had already lost too much. And I'd had just enough of a moment to remember. I think that's what rehabs are. Ultimately, people feel like when they send somebody to a rehab, that those people are going to fix them. I know I thought that when my son went to rehab when he was 16. I thought these people are going to fix this person. And we think, oh, good, they're going to rehab, they're going to get fixed, like some magical fairy dust that they're going to sprinkle on them is going to switch and change. I don't think that's what happens. I think what happens is that if you can get away from what feels like a life that's too much or pain that's too much for just a minute, for just long enough, 3 weeks, right? 21 days into 30 days is what rehabs are. 21 days is how long I was in Thailand. You open up just enough to have a moment of grace where your soul and your higher self comes online and reminds you of the incredible, beautiful soul that you are. And if you can just have a willingness, be willing to be willing, they say in 12-step, be willing to step through the door, to remember who you are. Nobody ever does it for you. There's no rehab. There's no 12-step room. There's no 9-step recover your soul process that will make anybody change. You have to want to change. You have to be willing to do what it takes to remember your wholeness, and you have to do the work to uncover the layers of gunk and stickiness and pain and woundedness that you've been shoving down for so long and using artificial substances or behaviors to try to keep you from feeling. So there I am in the car, and I can see so clearly a life that I do not like and I do not want. And everything in me that was in my pain body, my sick side, said, go home and have a drink. You'll feel better, won't you, honey? Oh, God. That addiction substances that we have, they whisper promises. Whisper promises. Oh, we're going to have the best night ever, or you'll feel better, or you'll be able to shut down, or this will calm your nerves. In the end, the promises are empty because whatever joy that you got from anything that you've ever done that was an unhealthy behavior is a dopamine hit. We all want dopamine. We all want those hits of, elation. There's many ways to get them. And they convince us that this is the only way. Sneaky, sneaky stuff, addiction. But there was another side of me that had been in recovery before, thank God, that knew that at 48 years old, if I did not get it together, if I did not choose myself, if I did not make this incredibly complicated choice in the car, I thought to myself, I'm going to save myself and I am willing to leave everything behind to do so. I'm willing to leave my husband and I'm willing to let go of the attachment that I had to my kids. There was some moment in that car that I had that said, I'm the drowning person and I have to save myself. There's no other choice for me. I don't think it was that night that I went to a meeting because it was the day that we arrived and it was late. But the next day, I went to another AA meeting. I had been in the rooms before and I walked back in, and for the first time in my entire life, because when I had gone into recovery before, as you know my story, I had not said, my name's Rachel, I'm an alcoholic. I had said, my name's Rachel, I'm an alcoholic, but really it's for my husband. He's the real problem. I just drink a lot, but he's an alcoholic, right? Like I was so sure, but I had proved to myself that I was powerless over alcohol and that my life had become unmanageable. And alcohol was a big piece of that unmanageability. So I just finished reading A New Earth. In my local area, I lead a spiritual community called the Soul Journey Collective with my dear friend, Rev. Crystal Jakowski. And we've been doing for 3 years, we've been meeting the first Saturday of every month and doing a sacred circle on Saturday mornings once a month. That's been this profound opportunity to be the teacher, the spiritual teacher that I am, alongside somebody who is also a beautiful spiritual teacher. And we created this very beautiful, intimate community. And Crystal, at the end of last year, said, I would really love to do a spiritual book study. And it didn't feel like we wanted to turn what we had been doing into a spiritual book study. So in addition to the sacred circle, we now have a spiritual book study afterwards, which we're really hoping will grow into a vibrant, large community of people that get together once a month who have, maybe they have other churches, maybe they have other, we're not trying to, it's just like me and Al-Anon. I'm not trying to take over Al-Anon. People, if you're going to Al-Anon, keep going. Keep going to Al-Anon. My hope is that you're getting something in addition to it through the words that I speak, and that we want to do the same thing with this spiritual community, which is go be wherever you are. And then once a month, let's get together and let's really talk about spirituality where you can say anything. You know me. I mean, you can talk about anything and we can really go deep with each other. So this past month, our book was A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And that book came out 25 years ago, I think. He had The Power of Now was first, and it was so profound and literally brought this concept of this present moment right here. This one is the only thing that exists, was mind-blowing for an entire Western culture. And that book went completely viral and started changing how people were in their life. So the next book was A New Earth. And he was just on Oprah again, her book club, because the teachings are still so profound and so good. And one of the things that he talks about that I wanted to bring up in this, he describes something that he calls the pain body. And Rich and I had been talking about the word pain body for years and years and years, because The Power of Now was a really powerful book for him. It was kind of his first step into spirituality. It wasn't me telling him anything. It's only been in the last 2 years that he has been interested in anything that I have to say on a spiritual level. For most of the time prior to that, he really felt like it was just another rub in his not enoughness and my complaint of who he was. And so it's taken us a long time to heal that dynamic and for him to be in a place where now he actually sees me beyond his wife and sees the value that I am as Rev Rachel, and he's incredibly proud of me, and he is as moved with the emails and the notes and the texts and the testimonials that I get from you about how this podcast and how these steps are transforming your life, and he is more open. But prior to, he was not that open. But he really could understand this concept of the pain body. And the way that Eckhart Tolle talks about it is he talks about the energy in which happens to us where we become consumed by our story and our pain. And he so beautifully and eloquently talks about how it becomes hungry. It becomes hungry for more of what is feeding it, which is drama and not enough in complaint and judgment and and blame and all the things that we've been working on in Recover Your Soul about how to release suffering. So it's almost like the pain body is another description for suffering. So he says, and I pulled this up on my other screen. Okay, finally found it. So he describes the pain body as an accumulated emotional pain that seeks activation and relief, and it feeds upon itself. Okay, one of the main things that Eckhart Tolle brought to mainstream is very Buddhist concepts. And these Buddhist concepts are around who is the thinker thinking the thoughts. Our brain is the same kind of mechanism and organ that our lungs are, or that our heart is, or our digestion, or our kidneys, or our liver. You don't have to make those things happen. They just happen. They're automatic. They are the part of us that keeps us alive. Well, the brain equally is there keeping us alive. And so sometimes when people go to meditate, they say, well, I can't really meditate because I can't stop thinking. No, you can't stop thinking. It's just like saying, I can't I can't do deep dives for 25 minutes because I can't help myself from breathing. You have to breathe. Your body naturally breathes. And all of these things that we do, our body is automatically doing it. Well, your brain automatically thinks. That's its job. So it's not about stopping the brain from thinking. It's about witnessing the thoughts instead of thinking you are the thoughts, or that every thought is real, or that every thought that you think is the only and right thought. But rather to recognize that your brain, like its own little AI system, if you think about AI is vast and incredible and has this incredible ability to take in all the information that it has, but it only knows what's within its model. And then it's learning from the information that was given to it. And it's constantly taking that information and learning from that information. Well, that's basically you. Your brain started with how it was born, what it saw, how people spoke to it, what people said were the right thing, what's the truth, what's real. And then you created an entire system that was based on that information. And then you go out and you get more information and your model continues to grow. But we can only At certain points in our life, we can only access what we have witnessed or been told or seen for our brain. And our brain is thinking, thinking, thinking on those parts. There's a higher self. There's a soul self that's outside of the AI model of your brain. There's a soul self that has access to infinite wisdom. There's a higher self that is not stuck in this small, minimal belief system. And we are being invited more and more and more to recognize that there is something outside, that is our consciousness. And that our consciousness is even beyond what we think. So the pain body is this attachment to the me, to the my story, to the you did this to me. How could this be like this? Why is this happening? The pain body is an energy that is fueling a demanding, a suffering part of us. But instead of condemning it and instead of thinking there's something wrong with it, our higher self, soul self says, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting aspect. This is me in the car. I've stepped out just far enough to have witnessed myself from my higher self that I got into the car and there was pain body. There was Rich in his pain body telling me all of the terrible things that had happened while I was gone. But I was able to witness from far enough back in a place that could just see that was just story. And in a way, I could also see that didn't define Rich or Alex. It didn't define who they were. It was this story that was being perpetuated through upset. Whether you've been working Recover Your Soul for a while, with me personally doing the modules, or you haven't gotten started yet, I have a free gift for you. I recently created the Recover Your Soul 9-step mini workbook, and I want to offer it to you as a gift. Go to recoveryoursoul.net, click the About Recover Your Soul tab, and put in your email and receive a PDF immediately that's going to help you to begin to understand the steps that will indeed offer you a path to a happy and healthy life, healed and awakened. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. Eckhart Tolle in A New Earth, which is so beautiful, talks about addiction. Addiction is not just substances, but an addiction to unconsciousness, an addiction to not being present with ourselves. It's not a moral issue. It's a relationship with ourself. And I've said oftentimes that I believe that addiction is really an opening to our broken heart. My heart was broken. And interestingly enough, what's interesting in the pain body and addiction is that the more we fuel it with what we think is going to fix it or make it better, we're actually just putting fuel on the fire. We're just taking a pile of combustibles and we're just pouring gasoline over the top and we're going, I don't understand why the fire's not going out. When you're in pain and you're demanding and you're wanting somebody to validate you, or you're demanding your story be seen, or you're in your woundedness, or you're in your peace, you're just putting fuel on the fire and feeding a pain body that wants more, 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 because it's a hungry ghost. The hole can never be filled from that vantage point, from that stance, from that place. Eckhart Tolle says that presence is the antidote. When you can see, when you can recognize, when you can step back just far enough and be like, oh, wow, that's the story I'm telling myself. Or I'm feeding into whatever this gossip is, or into my bad moodness, or whatever it is. You can step back high enough, far enough back to recognize that our thoughts are just doing what they're supposed to do. They're just trying to problem solve and figure it out. But when you awaken, which is what we're doing here in Recover Your Soul, when you awaken, when you step back just far enough to witness the experience and not be the experience, to witness what's the challenge or what's unfolding, and to make a decision about how you're going to interact with it, how you're going to perceive it, how you're going to show up for it, to not drink, to not yell, to not rage, to not act out, to not be the parts of us that are not our good parts, but to be open and curious and willing to be in your most healed state, which doesn't mean you're doing it perfect. It actually means that you're just interested and curious and willing to look at, what am I really upset about? We're never upset for the reason we think. Really, there's something else going on. And it's complicated because we're enmeshed in all these relationships with all these people who are having the same situation in their own lives. They're feeding their own pain bodies, their own suffering, their own journey. But when I decided to save myself, when I woke up, I really feel like in the car was one of those moments of a spiritual awakening where I couldn't go back. And the first couple of years of sobriety were not all that fun. To be honest, it takes a long time to unravel behaviors and patterns and habits. One of the things that I talked about is I had a 4:00 habit. I didn't drink during the day. I wasn't a day drinker unless it was the weekend or we were on vacation. But I got home from work every single day if I hadn't already had a shot of something in the car on my way home. And at 4:00, I'd pour myself this big glass of wine and then proceed to drink 2 more bottles of wine throughout the evening. I needed that ritual. That ritual was really hard. That pattern was really hard to break because I had, in my pain body self, I had trained myself that at 4:00, I could be rewarded, and all of the upset that I had been building up throughout the whole day, there would be an answer for it. Well, that was my solution. And what they talk about in 12-step is it's a solution until it quits being the solution. It works until it quits working. I mean, they say that all the time. It works until it quits working. One day it quits working. Same thing with all of our protective mechanisms, including control. We got to control. Control worked for a while until it quits working. So I had to find new rituals. I had to make myself something fuzzy and fancy and in a pretty glass at 4:00 in the afternoon for years because I needed whatever that was in my body. And then slowly, that gave up. I don't need anything bubbly or fancy or fuzzy at 4:00. And it took years for me to release slowly, step by step, many of the parts of myself that had been shut down, that didn't know how to feel. I mean, here I am 8 years in. I'm still working on feeling my feelings fully. I'm still working on being able to recognize what they are, because this isn't a one size fits all, boom, you're done situation. But when you start to have awareness, you start to raise your consciousness, you start to use spiritual tools and principles, you start to be present in this moment right here, right now, your higher self comes online and becomes the main driver along with co-creating with spirit. And it shifts and guides your life in ways that when you're choosing drugs or alcohol or other addictive substances, will only lead you to dead ends and painful ends again and again and again. Because the solution cannot maintain to be the solution because it's not an actual solution. It's a pain body solution. The pain body has convinced you that it's the solution. But your wholeness, your presence, the truth of who you are, the beauty of the soul that you are, the journey in which you came here to inhabit, that is the truth of who you are. And it only takes one moment of grace to recognize that you have more strength than you give yourself credit for, that you can stand in difficult things and you can be willing to give it all up. I was willing to give it all up to save myself. But I didn't have to give anything up. I got it all back. I got it all back. And more than I could have ever dreamed. Is my marriage perfect? No. But it's beautiful. And we're figuring it out. And we don't drink. And we don't yell. And we don't fight. Are my kids perfect? No. But they're beautiful. They're these fantastic young men who are dealing with their own addiction and their own awakening and their own figuring it out. And I can watch them and love them. Am I perfect? No. I'm just a person. Every once in a while, I feel a connection to something greater still that is more pure and beautiful than anything I ever felt. And I get this gift to share these things with you and to remind you that you're worth it. That whatever you're going through, no matter what it is, your soul is whole and your higher self is there with you. And that you don't have to be small and you don't have to be afraid. And that we don't have to pick addictive substances to keep us asleep. That the truth is that being awake is the antidote. It is the solution to be present in what is hard and what hurts and is complicated, but awake in it. That's actually the greatest gift that we can give our souls and that we can give each other. It took me a lot of years to give up alcohol, and I never think about it now. I never think about it. I see other people drink it. I don't care. I wouldn't give up how I feel in my body now for the most expensive glass of wine or champagne ever. Not worth it. But the greatest gift, the thing that it feels better than anything that I ever put in my body to try to hide, is being present in this moment and doing this incredible, powerful work of remembering our wholeness and the 9-step recovery your soul process that's been gifted to me. It started through the 12 steps and has morphed its way around into something completely different. The 12 steps in Alcoholics Anonymous and in Al-Anon are profound and will change your life if you walk them, because it's about discovering who you are. And the 9-step recover your soul process is about remembering who your soul self is. It's about stepping into your soul's journey and remembering your wholeness, and that this wild ride that we're here on purpose to have it. And I needed every single thing, every single moment, even those darkest days, to be able to get to where I am right here, right now, and to feel the love that I feel for myself and that I feel for my family and that I feel for you. So for that, I am so grateful. I encourage you to think about and look at, if you've never listened to Eckhart Tolle, I would definitely do that, but to think about this pain body concept, this addiction as a way to stay asleep, and this idea of awakening, even awakening in the midst of what feels chaotic and hard. Because when we awaken, we move into our heart. And our heart has more capacity to be with anything. And let your mind, let the thinker do the thinking thoughts. You're not trying to shut that down. You're just shifting your relationship with it so that you're using it as a tool instead of it using you. That's what they say about the ego. The ego is not bad. It's an aspect of ourselves. But let it be a tool that you're in charge of, and it's not in charge of you. So thank you for celebrating my 8th anniversary of being alcohol-free. I'm so grateful for this community, and I love you all very much. Until next time, namaste. Thank you so much for spending this time with me and being part of the Recover Your Soul community. If today's episode spoke to you and you'd like to connect with the community even more, I invite you to join us on the first Monday of every month for the free online support group on Zoom. It's from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, where I share a little bit more on the Recover Your Soul journey, and then we break into small groups. You can register at recoveryoursoul.net, and if you've registered in the past, be on the lookout in your promotions folder for the reminder email and link. I'd also love to invite you to listen to the Recover Your Soul bonus podcast every Friday, either as an Apple Podcast subscriber or as a Patreon member. On Patreon, you can become a free member and have access to new episodes for the first week, or you can support this community with the tier that you choose. You can also follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and join the private Facebook group for more connection with this amazing community. I hope you'll visit the website recoveryoursoul.net, and you can sign up for emails so that you can be up to date with everything that's going on, and maybe even join me for a retreat someday. Lastly, I thank you for sharing this podcast and community with anyone that you think that might enjoy or learn from it. I also thank you for giving me 5 stars on any platform that you listen to and writing a review so that others can find the Recover Your Soul community too. Until next time, namaste. The Recover Your Soul podcast and its content is for educational purposes only and is not allied or representative of any organizations or religions. It's based on the opinions and experience of Reverend Rachel Harrison. Recover Your Soul claims no responsibility to any persons or entity for any liability, loss, damage, or cause alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of its use. Applications or interpretations of the information represented herein. Take what you need and leave the rest.